Now, we've also got the seat of Hartley, another one of these marginal Labor seats. This is in the inner east, held by Grace Portalese since the last election on a margin of 6.2%. Now, we've got 31.7% of the vote counted, Dean.
In other words, we're talking to the third of the vote. Joe Scalzi held the seat until 2006. Grace Portalese won it in the class of 06. Grace Portalese is leading 44% to 40.9% for Joe Scalzi. But it becomes an interesting seat when we look at the swings in the two-party preferred vote and what's actually happening there. At the moment, the Labor Party is ahead. There's a swing to the Liberal Party of 1.5%, but it needs a 6.2% swing to the Liberal Party for it to move Liberal. So at the moment, Grace Portalese is ahead, and on a third of the vote, it's going to be hard for Joe Scalzi to peg that back.
OK, so we're seeing some of these seats that you would have expected on a big swing to have passed to the Liberals, but they're holding at this stage. And yet here, in the seat of Adelaide, which Labor was expected to hold, this is where Jane Lomax-Smith is the sitting Labor member on a margin of 10.2%. With 23% of the vote counted, we're saying she's lost a seat.
Well, it's a surprising result. I don't think anybody put Adelaide into the box of the seats that could be won by the Liberal Party. At the moment, the Liberal Party is ahead 54% to 27%. Now, that's a surprising result. If we look at the swings in the two-party preferred votes, you'll see just what has actually happened. The Liberal Party has had a massive swing of 13.3% in its favour, which has given it a lead of 53% to 47%. Now, on that sort of result, my feeling is that Rachel Sanderson is leading so well that that is unlikely to be changed because there's Lower North Adelaide to come in, which is going to favour the Liberal Party. I think Jane Lomax-Smith's in deep trouble there.
We're saying, in fact, she's gone. Now, we've got the seat of Morialta, where there's also been a big swing. This was held, or is held by Labor, by Lindsay Simmons, a margin of 6.9%, but with 43% of the vote counted, there's been a big swing to the Liberals.
I think Lindsay Simmons is in deep trouble. On first preference votes, she's trailing by 1,200 votes, which is a massive proportion to try and pick up on preferences. In fact, the margin's almost more than the preferences are available to offer to her. So if we look at the two-party situation, you'll see that here is one of the big swings that has occurred in the northeastern suburbs. In Morialta, it's a 13% swing, compared to 1 or 2%, or even a swing to Labor in some of the others. So it's very patchy. I think that we can say with confidence John Gardner will be returned.
And we're joined now by Lindsay Simmons from Morialta. Lindsay, I know you were expecting a tough fight, but are you surprised by the swing against you?
I'm very disappointed in the swing against me, but I'm very happy with the work that I've done in Morialta in the last 4 years.
And so are you prepared to concede that you've lost the seat?
Not at this point, no. As you just said, there's still preferences to be counted and there's still postal votes, and it's going to be very, very tight, as I've said all along, but we'll wait and see.
What's been the biggest obstacle that you've been facing in your campaigning?
I think getting the message out there. I think it's been very hard to get the media to focus on the real issues, the real policies that we're trying to talk about, particularly with local issues at times. And I don't think that the electorate knows everything that's been done for them.
In terms of getting the message out, though, doesn't the ALP have to take some of the responsibility? There's been a lot of negative campaigning, if you like, trying to say that Isabel Redman isn't ready to lead, rather than perhaps trumpeting what Labor has done.
Look, we're a team and we work together, and, you know, the results will speak for themselves at the end of the night, I think.
And how much of a factor in the swing against you has Isabel Redman been? Has she been popular in the electorate?
Part of my electorate was actually Isabel's electorate up until the redistribution, and I think that Morialta has fared very badly for the Labor Party in the redistribution. We lost an area of Paradise that was very strongly a Labor booth, and we gained parts of the hills and also Wattle Park and Skye that have traditionally been Liberal areas, and very strong Liberal areas at that.
And what about the issue of the Royal Adelaide Hospital? Has that been something which has been important in your electorate?
People talk about health a lot in my electorate, and I think there's been a lack of understanding. And of what we really need with a new hospital and why we need a new hospital. And that has been a hard message for us to sell. And actually, to this point, I don't know why it's still been so hard, because for me, it's a total no-brainer. We need a brand new hospital.
Well, Lindsay Simmons, thanks very much for joining us, and we'll keep an eye out, obviously, not as closely as you will, on what's happening with your seat.
Thank you, Dominic, very much.
Now, we've got a few things to come up to date with Kevin and Rob, but let's clear up the mystery of the seat of Davenport immediately, because we've got some updated figures. The Electoral Commission figures were suggesting, after 15% of the vote counted, was that there was a huge swing against the Liberals, which nobody could understand. With 40-something% of the vote counted, they're now saying it's a 0.1% swing to Labor. So
well,
it's all right, Rob, you can relax.
I think I said I'd always back Ian Evans against the ABC computer. He knows his electorate pretty well, and he's comfortable in relation to Davenport. But I think in terms of the other seats, clearly Adelaide is firming, as Dean has said, as a gain. But clearly some of those much lower percentage seats, like Light, are looking very, very difficult for us in terms of being able to win them. Bright seems to be the one that's hanging on the edge at the moment. The information seems to be that the swing is around about the swing that we need to win, in and of the order of 6 to 7%.
So that one, as it stands, is in the very doubtful
It may well
category.
be that it's one that does go down overnight for preferences and postals next week.
OK, so Kevin, have you got any significantly updated figures?
On the record, Ian Evans, if you're watching, I did suggest, and I did agree with Rob, that I didn't believe the ABC on that one.
Say Electoral Commission.
Electoral Commission, sorry, Electoral Commission, my apologies. But Rob's right in Bright. I'm told that all the booths are now in. There's a 6.94% swing against Labor, I'm told. 314 votes behind in primary, but there would be a very large amount of postal votes, so this one will go down to the wire, and this will be probably midweek before you'll know there. We're getting increasingly confident in Hartley, obviously in Light. We'd like to think that we can hang on in Mawson. We think we're a real chance there. But Adelaide's the big disappointment for us. That has there has been a few people in the Labor Party speculating privately in the last few days. We hadn't really looked at Adelaide. Jane Lomax has been a great member, a good friend and an outstanding minister, so I'd be very sorry to see her lose her seat, but on these figures it would appear she's in a lot of trouble. Now,
I get the feeling that you're feeling somewhat better than you did when you walked into this room tonight.
Well, I'm a pessimist by nature, as Rob is.
Except that he was cautiously optimistic by the time he got here, and you were still pessimistic.
Yeah, well...
How are you now?
I'm a little edgy. I'm starting to feel that we're a chance.
Of holding government.
Of holding government, right. But, you know, it'd be foolish to be anything more than simply saying that I'm...
Well, hubris isn't allowed in politics anymore, so there's certainly no chance of that.
No, there'll be no chance of hubris. But I think on the early indications, we have a real chance to hold on. But what we do also need to see is, are there any other sleepers out there in terms of seats that Labor are vulnerable in? I think we're OK in the seat of Florey. That was an early concern for us. But I'd want to see another hour or so of numbers before I start to get confident.
Now, Rob, are you still cautiously optimistic, or have you stepped back from there?
Yes, I'm somewhere between cautiously optimistic and pessimistic. Certainly not as cautiously optimistic as I was at the start of the evening. It's obviously of concern that some of the seats within the margin that we're looking at don't appear at this stage to be trending towards us. But at this stage, it looks like seats like Norwood, Morialta, Adelaide and maybe Bright might be seats that we take from Labor, which of course takes them from 28 down to 24. They may well win Mitchell, we don't know, that's up in the air. The information coming to us is that in seats like Frome and Chaffey, we're doing pretty well, so there's another potentially couple of gains for us in those two seats. So there's half a dozen seats towards the 10, but of course we need 10 with the combination of the seats to get there. So we haven't seen much in the way of hard information from Mawson. Be interesting to see what Mawson is showing us. And again, some of these wildcards...
Well, it appeared to be holding for Leon Bignell.
But some of these wildcard seats in the 10 to 15% mark, 13% swings in Adelaide and in Morialta, it indicates there are potentially big swings going on out there. So is there a wildcard seat or two still out there?
OK.